Throughout the years, there's constantly been discussion around both Album of the Year and Rate Your Music. What site is better and why is it better? I had decided that the best way to gather unbiased data about these sites was to survey their users. My goals were to evaluate the reason why somebody may choose one site over the other, or purposes of using either site if they use both, their reasons for rating and reviewing music, their views of people on these sites, as well as their own music taste. I also gathered information about age demographics, as Album of the Year's user base is stereotypically seen as skewing younger, and Rate Your Music is constantly being stereotyped as having old music nerds. And lastly, how they found out about these respective sites. The people responding to my survey consisted of users from r/Fantano Forever and r/Taught in the Shadows, as well as Headphone Emoji, the.mic.stand, mindoffb, Who is Clouded, and Reviewed by Luke's followers. I gathered data from accounts who covered vastly different groups of artists as to avoid biases in the responders' music taste. In total, I gathered 145 people, though I eliminated one because I suspected that they were a troll. I mean, look at this. My favorite genre is video game soundtracks and my favorite artist is Weezer, and I'm 1 trillion years old? Like, what's going on? Results. 59 Rate Your Music users responded and 108 Album of the Year users responded. The most common response was, I stumbled onto it myself, and the second most common was a YouTuber talked about it. As for the question, how do you find about Album of the Year, the most common response was, a YouTuber talked about it. And the second most common response was, I stumbled onto it myself. As for people who responded alternative responses to this survey, for AOTY, people say that they found out about it through social media, it being mentioned on Twitter or Instagram. And for Rate Your Music, people say that they found out about it through social media as well, for Trans Music Board, as well as music reviewers mentioning it. The median age for Album of the Year users, including people who also use Rate Your Music, was 17. The median age for Rate Your Music users, including people who also use Album of the Year, was 19 years old. Reported ages of Album of the Year users from people who also use the site was between 60 and 17 years old and 20 plus years old on Rate Your Music. Album of the Year users predominantly cited a better UI. People described the Rate Your Music UI as unintuitive and ugly, and said that Album of the Year was more organized and easier to use. The second most reported reason was preferring the rating scale. People reported preferring a rating scale of 100 as opposed to 5 stars, as the numerical scale was easier to use. People also said that Album of the Year had a better community, saying that Rate Your Music was more intimidating and pretentious. When answering the question why Rate Your Music over Album of the Year, Rate Your Music's users predominantly cited finding out about it first and a better community and catalog. They stated that the genres on Rate Your Music had more detailed information as well as a wider database. Additionally, people had also mentioned that there were better discussions on Rate Your Music as well as more similar music tastes to them as compared to Album of the Year users. People who use Album of the Year predominantly describe the users on the site as immature. Childish behaviors such as being overly confrontational and fixated on drama, a tendency to argue in bad faith, and have fixed opinions and poor quality reviews or opinions were reported. However, some people who mentioned immature behavior on the site had also mentioned that there were people who were also clearly passionate and chill. The second most reported theme as a result was being chill. People stated that though Album of the Year users seemed younger, they seemed like friendly people open to have a conversation and that they were relaxed. Then people also reported that they were passionate, whether it was through writing well thought out, sincere reviews or feeling strongly about the music they love. When Rate Your Music users described other users on the site, the most dominant report was that they were pretentious. Some people had mentioned pretentiousness as a bad thing, thinking they have the objectively right opinions or being overly posh and strict on what is good music, but others mentioned that this pretentiousness stemmed from passion and that they seemed sincere. Secondly, they were also reported as chill. They said that the users were more mature and knowledgeable about music. As a result, it's to no surprise that the third most reported team was passionate. People cited their enthusiasm towards music and writing well thought out, detailed music analysis. Overall, even though there were minor differences in how people describe the users on either site, the underlying theme is that though there were a lot of annoying people on the site, there are still chill and passionate people if you just look for them. Now, nextly, I wanted to ask the very pertinent question. How much do you even enjoy interacting with people on these sites? From a scale of 1, bloody hate it, to 10, absolutely love it, and 5 being neutral, for hour and a year users, excluding those who use Rate Your Music, the mean number for this question was 5.9, the median was 6, and the mode was 7. Meaning that people were mixed but leaning positively towards their experiences and feelings towards interacting with people on these sites. For Rate Your Music users, it was the exact same. And lastly, for those who use both Album of the Year and Rate Your Music, the mean was 4.3, the median was 4, and the mode was 3. For Album of the Year users, excluding those who also use Rate Your Music, the most common response to what you rate or review music was to catalog their thoughts on music. And then, I just think it's fun. And lastly, I want to be in a community with other like-minded people. For Rate Your Music users, the most common response was that they wanted to catalog their thoughts on music, they just thought it was fun, and that they wanted to be in a community with other like-minded people. Lastly, for those who use both sites, it was the exact same. More importantly though, how would they best describe their own music reviews? For Hour and a Year users, the predominant answer was whatever my first listen thoughts are. And then the second most responded thing was I don't review music, and the third was detailed breakdowns. As for Rate Your Music users, the most predominant answer was whatever my first listen thoughts are, the second was I don't review music, and the third was poetic and descriptive interpretations of the music. The question I think you guys have all been waiting for: what are the most listened to artists among Album of the Year and Rate Your Music users? Now, firstly, for Album of the Year, the artist that appeared the most was Jane Remover of a grand total of 33 times, Kodeka, who appeared 30 times, Underscores, who appeared 27 times, Kendrick Lamar, who appeared 10 times, Magdalena Bay, who appeared 9 times, and Kanye West, Nina Geraci, Radiohead, and Olivia Rodrigo, who appeared 7 times. Among Rate Your Music users, their favorite artists were Kodeka, who appeared 12 times, Jane Remover, who appeared 10 times, Underscores, who appeared 7 times, JPEG Mafia, Kendrick Lamar, Charlie XCX, who appeared 5 times, Bjork, David Bowie, Black Country New Road, Always, FKA Twigs, who appeared 4 times, Sujaf Stevens, Yeast, and Elliott Smith, who appeared 3 times. It's important to note that significantly fewer Rate Your Music users answered the survey and that they had a significantly wider range of favorite artists. Now onto their favorite genres. Our of the years were hyperpop, which appeared 30 times, indie, which appeared 25 times, rock, which appeared 24 times, electronic, which appeared 13 times, indie rock, which appeared 11 times. Rate Your Musics were folk, which appeared 11 times, rock, which appeared 10 times, hip-hop, which appeared 9 times, electronic, art pop, and jazz, which appeared 7 times, post-rock, shoegaze, and indie, which appeared 6 times. Now, how I classified a user's taste profile was by evaluating their favorite artists listed in the favorite artist box and trying to best find the genre that fit their music taste. And if there were 3 or more genres of artists which they listed, I classified it as mixed bag. For Hour of the Year, the most reported taste profile was electronic, and then indie and rock, and then a mix of electronic and hip-hop. As for Album of the Year and Rate Your Music, the most reported taste profile was hip-hop, and then mixed genres, indie, rock, and rock. As for Rate Your Music, the first most reported taste profile was rock, which was reported a staggering 20 times. And then the second most reported taste profile was indie, and then the third most reported taste profile was mixed genres or mixed bag. Most of these results was about what I would have expected, other than hip-hop being less favored among Album of the Year users than I had previously thought. In retrospect though, I don't know why this surprised me. In 2022, there were four hip-hop albums that ended up making the top 10 for the year-end list. In 2023, there were 2 albums. In 2024, there were also 2 albums. And 2025, there were 3 albums. And 2026, there were 2 albums. I do also think that there may be a recency bias involved in the favorite genres for album of the year, as a lot of acclaimed electropop albums and albums considered as hyperpop dropped this year. Worst Girl in America, You, Detour, and Halo. Keep in mind that I am both an Album of the Year and Rate Your Music users. I believe that the reason why Rate Your Music's user base is the way it is because it's viewed as a more pretentious site. The perception of the site as pretentious deters people who are looking for a more casual experience away, which leads to a fostering of this user base. I think the older, more information-packed UI also attracts older people. I also think that the reviews are often better thought out due to a positive cycle where, because Rate Your Music is known as this more serious site with better reviews, that it attracts more passionate reviewers to the sites. In comparison, Album of the Year is often seen as the more chill community compared to Rate Your Music, due to a sleeker UI and more focus on individual reviewers as opposed to the reviews themselves. Additionally, artists have shouted out the site, for example, Slater. As a result, it has been subject to more stan Twitter behavior. For instance, 100 and Zero bombing. The first instance of this was seen with Jungkook's Golden in October of 2023. Though review bombing is also a thing on Rate Your Music, it's less rampant, and the reasons behind it are often because of chart positions and moral reasons rather than stan wars. Album of the Year is also formatted more like a social media site, with likes and comments on reviews, as well as clear following and follower labels. As a result, its users can sometimes focus more on engagement instead of quality reviews and discussion. Users often follow large amounts of people to get followers, or do direct follow for follows, without engaging with other users. The lack of featured reviews, unlike Rate Your Music, and the liking system as opposed to Rate Your Music's voting system, leads to lower quality reviews often reaching the top of album pages. I also think that Album of the Year's more unserious nature has made way to a serious case of irony poisoning, similarly seen on other sites that are formatted more like social media platforms such as Letterboxd. A seriously bad case of this can be seen in Vince Staples' Crybaby top reviews. They should make Donald Trump listen to this. Vince low-key the type of person I would like to vote for president. Kinda unrelated, but since I forgot to say this earlier, I'm gonna say now. Happy Pride Month, y'all! Real music is here, ladies and gentlemen. The GOAT is back, absolutely locked in, and made exactly what stupid, brain-rotten, low-attention span losers need to hear right now. Also, if you say, oh, rappers going political is so annoying, Vince didn't need to do this. Read more. American Society, the album. It's a good thing this problem hasn't reached Rate Your Music yet. I believe that both sides have their upsides and significant problems. People often call out Rate Your Music core and more recently Album of the Year core taste, often trying to A, cheaply insult a person, or B, call out conformity in these communities. But the wider discussion that often gets ignored is the biases that both of these communities uphold. I often feel like a lot of these communities inherently view experimental music as higher art, or have very gatekeepy attitudes about what is even considered experimental music in the first place. I think there is also a misconflation of maximalist equals good, which further reinforces this. I mean, I like Quedeca, but there's a reason why he's so popular on this survey. Also, let's go wider than devaluing music that's less experimental. I think both of these sites have an issue of devaluing music as a whole. Album of the Year users who write a dismissive one-liner about why they hate an album. Rate Your Music users will write a long paragraph misunderstanding the album with 20 fancy adjectives. I think both of these sites foster a culture where people want to be critical without fully fleshing out their opinions. Besides an overall critical culture, both sites focuses on chart placement and scores also detracts from talking about the actual music. On both sides, you often see people complaining about why one album is higher on the charts than another, or score being too low or high. Ironically, this is very similar behavior to layman pop stans on Stan Twitter. To break down my timeline of using these sites, I'd created a Rate Your Music account in June 2022 and abandoned it in April 2023 in favor of Album of the Year. I ditched it because I thought that Rate Your Music looked ugly and I liked the community features and Album of the Year. At the time, it was a lot less popular and I found the community very welcoming. I reviewed stuff as a way to practice writing formally, as well as talk to other people about music. I even got a few of my friends onto it and we had fun exchanging reviews and ratings. I noticed Album of the Year's community getting annoying around mid-2024, leading to me distancing away from it, as well as me naturally stepping back from it due to being very busy with A-levels. There were cool people that I followed, but other than that, it felt like endless arguing and bad faith opinions. I tried fully switching to Rate Your Music as a result, but people there also seemed miserable. So I decided to just stick to mainly using Album of the Year and use Rate Your Music for discovery and passive reading of reviews. After a while, I figured that my reason for being on these sites in the first place had very little to do with the people themselves. I'd already met people in real life and online who could talk music with me. Thus, I started mostly with just reading and reviewing music and not interacting with many people. This fully depends on your needs and reasons to wanting to be on these sites. Album of the Year is better if you want a more friendly, tight-knit community. You're new to music reviewing and music listening/analyzing as a hobby. You listen to more newer music and want to discover more newer releases. You want to promote your music or be a prominent figure on the site. Rate Your Music is better if you want to have more in-depth discussions about music. You want to discover older music or music from different countries. Their country sorting feature is really good. You want to catalog all the music you've listened to and other things you've liked. Use both if you have a lot of time on your hands and you want to maximize the best of each site. I don't think there'll ever be a perfect reading platform, but here's my main critiques of both sites outside of their communities. Album of the Year. I do not see the point of the critic scores on Album of the Year. Perhaps they were trying to emulate Rotten Tomatoes tomato meter critics versus popcorn meter users system, but the critics consensus feature on that site makes it feel worthwhile, as well as the increased volume of film critics as opposed to music critics. Not to mention the very unnecessary discourse it creates. How could Pitchfork give album this score? Fantano gave album this score? It is a net negative for discussion on that. Rate Your Music. Why do you have to pay to show album recommendations under a specific album of Rate Your Music? Sponsoring albums to see track ratings and recommendations is incredibly stupid, and they only last a month too. Album of the Year has that, and though the recommendations are really bad most of the time, it's still better than not having it at all. Site critiques aside, the cynic in me thinks that fundamentally, the communities on both sides are two sides of the same shit-stained coin. So if you were to ask me the question, Album of the Year versus Rate Your Music, which one's better? I'd say neither. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you like this video, press a like. If you dislike this video, press a dislike and let me know why you disliked it in the comments below. Thank you so much for my channel members for supporting the channel. You can see them over here. And as always, I'm Gabs and have a nice day.